Hi everyone and welcome to our webinar. Today we are going to discuss best practices for monitoring your team's work. Our session is going to take about an hour of your time and we are going to finish with a Q&A session. I would like to start with introducing myself. My name is Artem and I'm a customer success manager here at Wrike. The main goal of my role is to help you use Wrike in the most efficient way. When we ask our customers what are the main goals that you would like to achieve with Wrike, one of the common responses is to have transparency and visibility into our team's work. This includes getting daily and weekly status updates on the ongoing projects without the need to distract the team from work. Also, it is a common case when managers need to have a report at hand for a meeting with the executives. During this session, we will present the tools Wrike has in stock for you to address these cases and more. Before we dive into specific use cases, we would like to showcase how efficient monitoring tools can look like in Wrike. So I'm going to open one of the dashboards here called Process Dashboard. So as you can see, this dashboard helps to visualize what tasks are that are part of the ongoing projects are in what stages. Each stage is represented with a relevant widget. Like here you can see the widget called New, In Progress, Unsigned, and others. So you can get a status update of any part of the projects without the need to distract your team from work. Another example that I would like to provide is a report called Overdue Milestones. So this report showing you all the milestones that are overdue, and no longer do you need to gather the necessary data in a rush before the meeting with the management team. You build a report once and always have it available. These and many other great scenarios are available to you with Wrike. But our dedicated monitoring panels will show you accurate and relevant data only if an important condition is met. A set of Wrike-related habits is built among your team members. All these habits are related to specific actions with Wrike items. Let's quickly go through them. Firstly, it is very important that tasks and project statuses are kept up to date. Have a meeting with your team and explain that it will only take a second of their time to change the status of the task compared to having a meeting with you, going through every actionable step of a project and telling you whether it is started, not started, in progress, or completed. Secondly, all the tasks and project start and due dates need to be kept up to date. If anything is shifted forward or on the contrary completed earlier than anticipated, it needs to be reflected in Wrike. The more accurate are the dates set up in Wrike, the easier it would be for your team to prioritize the work on the daily basis. You can either review the due dates every week or have one of your team members do that. Finally, not only should your team members utilize the organizational structure that you have built for them in advance, but also maintain the process you have come up with. For example, if you organize your projects chronologically, adding folders for years on top level and the ones representing months in the middle, you need to make sure that your team understands that logic and places new projects into the folders according to the established system. Before we begin discussing the best practices, I would like to launch a quick poll to find out what monitoring tools, if any, you are already using. So we will only have the poll for about 30 seconds. So please add your responses. What monitoring tools your team is currently using. All right, and I'm closing the poll, and now I'm sharing results with you. So as you can see, the majority of the attendees of this webinar use both dashboards and reports, and it's great to learn that you are using both of our major monitoring tools. All right, and we are going back to our presentation. So now let's start discussing the best practices for building monitoring tools tailored to your needs. And we are going to begin with dashboards. Let me switch into the demo account. And the first dashboard that I would like to showcase is called dashboard event feedback dashboard. All right. So, before I start explaining what can be seen here, I need to provide some background information. So we have an external request form in our account, using which our customers provide their feedback on the events that we deliver. So if you have a look here on the left-hand side, you can see that there is the feedback folder under the event space. So once the request form is submitted, all the tasks that are triggered by submission of that form, they fall into this feedback folder. All right. So Anne in our organization is responsible for processing this feedback. So all the tasks that are triggered by the form are automatically assigned to her. And if we open this folder and select any of the tasks that was triggered by this by the submission of the request form, you will see that a specific custom workflow has been added by N to be able to track what piece of feedback is in what status of processing. So as you can see, it's a very simple custom workflow consisting only of 4 different statuses. So here on the event feedback dashboard, based on the feedback folder, 4 widgets have been added. And each of these widgets actually represents a certain stage of processing of that feedback. It makes it super easy to monitor what feedback has already been processed and what still awaits the processing. And this dashboard can be especially helpful for traffic managers. Just wanted to highlight it. All right, moving to our second dashboard. Guys, would like to remind you, if you have joined earlier, if you have any questions, please leave them in the question box of the webinar interface and I will answer them at the end of the webinar. Okay, and our second example, our second best practice is called Creative Assets Dashboard. It is used by the creative team that works with a large number of assets. On the left-hand side, we can see a files widget that shows all the files attached to different items residing in the creative space. As you can see, there is a name of the item to which the file is attached. So one can quickly jump to that item directly from the widget. So if I, for example, click on the kickoff meeting link here, I will be taken to the task that actually contains that creative asset. All right. Also, on the right-hand side, there are 3 widgets related to files approval process. They show the items awaiting approval, the ones where changes are required, and approved ones. Together, these 4 widgets form an ultimate monitoring panel for the team's creative assets. I would like to highlight the fact that these widgets can only be used, the 3 widgets on the right hand side of this dashboard can only be used on Wrike for marketers accounts or the ones with Wrike proof add-on purchased. So if you don't have the add-on, you can just create a custom workflow and populate it with statuses representing different stages of asset approval process. All right. We're switching now to the dashboard number 3, and I've called it Projects Dashboard. This one is used by the management team to monitor high-level information. It contains several project-based widgets, and we have a Project Health Lab feature activated for this account. So not only do the widgets help us monitor basic project attributes like statuses and owners, but also the percentage of completion of each item. So as I mentioned, this feature can be activated in Wrike Labs. So you just go to wrike.com. You just go to wrike.com/labs. and you will be able to find that feature in the list of, well, features that you can enable. As you can see, I've already enabled it from my Wrike account, and if you do enable it, it is activated account-wide. So for every project widget that you add to any of your dashboards, you will be able to monitor the percentage of completion of any given project. By the way, guys, if you have a look at this widget called completed, so you will see that all the both of the projects residing here have 100% completion in the progress bar. Well, this is obviously correct because both of these projects have been completed. All right, so why are there 6 widgets here? Well, each of the widget actually represents a certain project status. So currently 6 project statuses are available, and what I have done, I have built a project widget per each of these statuses and added them to this dashboard. If, for example, you do not use some of the statuses, some of the project statuses, I mean, you can of course just not add widgets representing these statuses, so your dashboard might look a little bit different from this one. All right, and the last dashboard that we would like to showcase today is the one used to monitor emergency work. So, well, obviously it's called emergency work. So, it has only 3 widgets residing here. Firstly, we have one called urgent. So this widget shows all the tasks from the urgent folder. So if I expand the creative space, you can see that actually there is a folder here called urgent. And the idea behind it is very simple. So once we need to like reprioritize certain tasks and highlight the fact that they're like super urgent, we just tag them into this particular folder. And due to the fact that this folder is used as the source for the widget with the same name, well, all these tasks immediately appear on in this widget. So the second widget shows all the tasks that are overdue. It helps to quickly notice any actionable steps where the team didn't manage to meet the deadlines. You can add several widgets using the overdue tasks by assignee widget template if you need to monitor overdue tasks divided by assignee. And finally, the third widget that you can see on the right hand side of this dashboard, it shows all the projects that have red status. If any project shows up here, it means that it is in major trouble and some action is required about that project. All right, so now let's move forward and start discussing reports. So the first case is very simple. Let's say that my team conducts weekly meetings, and for each of them I need a status update report that will show what task is in what status. If I need to see only active tasks, I can simply select the active tasks by assignee report template, but in my example I also need to see the tasks that have been completed. So I'm going to build a new report from scratch. I start by selecting a task-based report and proceed to selecting folders that will serve as the source for this report. In fact, I need to see all the tasks residing in our team space. So instead of selecting specific folders, I choose the whole creative space. So I check the corresponding checkbox. I'm not going to apply any filters in the third column, so I finish building my report by selecting the table view and click Save and View. Don't forget that it's important to give your reports good self-explanatory names. So I'm going to call this particular one Weekly Meetings Report. All right. As I already mentioned, I need an updated version of this report before each weekly meeting, and we conduct them on Thursdays at noon. So I'm subscribing to this report, and I'm selecting Thursday 11 a.m. Now every Thursday, if I click the subscribe button, I will get an updated version of the report in my inbox and attend every meeting prepared. Voila. By the way, guys, just wanted to highlight the fact that you are free to toggle on and off particular columns in your reports and also change the grouping criteria. So right now all these tasks that are residing here are grouped by status, but I might want to group them by project. So I choose the parent folder, and now all these tasks are grouped the way I want them to be grouped. All right. Now, moving to our second example. Let's say we categorize our projects by priority and have three available options: high, normal, and low. So to show you how it can be done, I'll just open the creative space and I will open it in the new table view. So what I've done here, I've actually added a drop-down type custom field on the project level. And as you can see, there are three options to choose from: high, normal, and low. So if you are not familiar with custom fields, I can elaborate on them later during the Q&A session. So what's important now is that custom fields allow to add any additional attributes that you need to have either on a project level or on a task level. So basically what I did here, I added a custom field on a project level to be able to select the priority for every single one of my projects. All right, so now you know how you can actually add this priority attribute. And now going back to our reports, so what I'm going to do now is to build a project-based report. Again, I choose the creative space as the source, and I choose the table view. I click Save and View, and we can see all projects here. I will need to activate the priority column. So I activate it here, and I will just remove some information that I do not need to see. Once I have done that, I delete the grouping criteria by status and add the one by this custom field that I have added, which is priority. So as you can see, all my projects that are residing in the creative space, they are now categorized by priority. So at the top I see projects that have high priority, a little bit lower I see the ones that have low priority, and several projects that have normal priority. So that's how it can be done. Very simple but very efficient. And of course you are more than welcome to add additional attributes to your projects. For example, a lot of our customers not only measure and evaluate their projects by priority but also by risk. So the same approach can be applied here. So a custom field can be applied on the project level. Several values for different levels of risk can be added, and then you can build a report that will actually include these risk criteria. All right. So on our third example, it actually implies that some preparational work was performed in advance. During a lot of webinars that we conduct, we highlight the importance of archiving completed work. How exactly you do that is up to you, but here is a good example. In our creative space, we have a Z archive folder. And all projects that we have either completed or put on hold are stored chronologically. So at the top level, we have folders representing years. Below, we have subfolders representing months. And at the bottom level, we have projects that we have completed during those months. This approach makes it super easy to build historical reports. We already have all projects properly organized. The only thing we'll need to do is to choose the period. Let's say we need to see a report based on projects that our team has completed in Q1 2019. So I am building another project report. I'm just going to call it Q1 2019 completed projects. And now I simply choose not only the archive folder, but specific months of the 2019 subfolder. I click Table View, and here we go. We can see all the projects that we have completed in Q1 2019. As simple as that. And no time needs to be spent to just evaluate what's going on, because if you just invest some time after you have completed a project, actually just several seconds, to move these projects to the corresponding archive folder, it will be like super easy for you to build historical report. All right. Now, the last example is going to be a little bit more advanced. Let's say that we have a team of consultants who track their time in Wrike and need to calculate billable hours for the customers. So the question is, can this be done entirely in Wrike, or will still need to export information to Excel and perform the necessary calculations there? Well, not necessarily if you are familiar with the calculated fields functionality. This is another functionality that can be activated in Wrike Labs. So you just need to go to wrike.com/labs and find the relevant section here and click enable. So of course I have already enabled it for this Wrike account. Now, let's have a look at this project. Well, it's a simple project called Blog on Best Workplace Habit. So, as you probably know, users on business subscriptions and higher are able to track time in Wrike. So they are able to select one of the tasks and just click the play button, or just add the time entry manually. For example, I've just worked for 1 hour on this particular task called create blog post on get out of email campaign, and I click add entry. So that's how time entries can be done in Wrike. Also, each of these tasks has a custom field called hourly rate. So this is a currency type custom field that I have added on a task level. So for every task, I have inputted a specific value to this custom field. So as you can see, for different tasks, these hourly rates are different. Some, for example, cost $25, some cost $20, $30, and so on. All right. So now we know that we have time entries and we know that we have hourly rates. So I think you already understand what I'm going to showcase. But anyway, I go to reports. I build a new report from scratch. And I'm just going to call it billable hours. Okay. I build a task-based report and choose that particular project where we will need to calculate these billable hours. So I select this project and none of other projects, and I click the table view. We also do not need to apply any filters in this case. So I click save and view. And let's start with removing the columns that we actually do not need to see. So I delete the status group column, I delete the parent folder column. We also don't need duration, effort, and let's say start date. But we will need time spent column and hourly rate column. I can actually even delete the assignee column. We do not need that right now. All right, so we have a report that shows all the tasks with the time entries and with hourly rates. So what we will need to do, we will need to add a calculated field that will perform that simple calculation for us and multiply the time that we have spent by hourly rate. So I'm going to add a new calculated field called total. So we will simply choose the first column, time spent, then we will enter the multiply symbol, and then we are selecting the second column called hourly rate, which is based upon our custom field that we have added earlier, right? So now I click create, and as you can see, Wrike automatically performs the necessary calculations. For example, here for the task called create blog post on folder favorites, we have an hourly rate of $20. So due to the fact that the user responsible for this particular task worked on this task for 4 hours, we get an $80 total. So that's how calculations can be performed, and this particular report can be super valuable for the professional services team that need to track and calculate these billable hours. All right, so these are the best practices that we wanted to showcase to you today. And now it is time for your questions. I see that several questions have already been asked in the question box, so let me just start with the first one. So we have a question from Mark. I cannot access labs. I used to be able to access, but have not been able to access this week. Well, Mark, first thing, labs can only be accessed by account admins. So you need to make sure that you are an account administrator. So if it is the case, if you're like 100% sure that everything is correct, then just please reach out to our support team, but I hope this will just solve your problems. We also have another question from Mark. Is it possible to break down time start and due dates in units? Less than a day, half days, hours, fractions of hours. So, Mark, could you please elaborate a bit? Are you asking about, so you want to a certain task to have in the last? I mean, do you want to see like start date in minutes, or could you please elaborate what exactly do you mean by your second question? Thank you. We have a question from Diana. In the dashboard view, how did you get the widgets to be in columns and 2 rows instead of 4 columns? This is a great question, so let me just show it to you, Dan. So I go to the dashboard. So for example, here we see 3 widgets, right? So what I'm going to do now, I will simply change the size of this widget, then change the size of this widget, and now I simply drag this widget onto the first one, and that's it. And I can even make them smaller, like this. And then I will be able to put even 3 widgets in one column. So that's how it can be done. We have a question from Anastasia. In your last report, you can see total figure. Why? Is it not useless if we can't go total to pay? Thank you. So, you are asking about like the total for all of the tasks, right? Well, so right now you can only get this total on the well, if I add grouping, actually, just let me check. Oh, I get it. So you mean you would like to see the total on the of all the tasks where we have added these billable hours? So well, right now Wrike does not add these totals. So yeah. So sadly, you will need to calculate it on your own. Yeah. Well, I get what you're asking, Anastasia. Thank you for elaborating. So Mark is elaborating on his question. On tasks due date 25. Oh, you mean you would like to have like due date on the same day, but in different time slots? So you like to be more granular on the day level. Yeah, Mark, so sadly this is not here at the moment, but this is actually a great suggestion. What I can promise you, I will actually reach out to our R&D team after the webinar and just forward your idea to them. So thank you very much for your idea. We have another question from Megan. With the time management tool you talked about at the end, it was framed mostly around billable hours. We're looking into finding a way to really track workloads and workload management between staff and different types of work. Do you see a way this feature could be used more for workload management than for billing? Well, I would say not exactly, because the exact answer to your question would be using the workload chart, which is available on Wrike resource add-on. So this actually allows to manage the workload of every single assignee, check the effort required for every single task, distribute work here, and perform all the necessary calculations. So combined with the time tracking functionality, this can be super cool for your team. So I would say that the answer to your question would be the workload chart. We have another question from Kelsey. So how did you make the urgent folder show up as red? Well, this is a functionality in Wrike called color coding. So to color code a folder, you need to right click it on the left hand side navigation panel and hover over the color option. So as you can see here, a lot of different options are available for you to select, and of course, the best practice is to highlight the most important folders with some bright colors, so they would be easily distinguishable from other items on the left-hand side navigation panel. So yeah, this is how it can be done. Guys, thank you so much for being active and asking all your great questions. It's great that we are having this conversation with you. All right, so we still have some time for your questions. While you are preparing them, I would like to showcase some additional resources that are available to you. So the first one is our help center, located at help.wrike.com. This is a place where you can find articles on all kinds of different topics, for example, dashboards. You can also start live chat with our technical support, submit a request, or call us using this number. If you would like to dive deep into any specific topic, I would also recommend registering for our live webinars and Ask the Expert sessions. Well, obviously a lot of you already know about this page, but if you have registered to this webinar from the link that you have received to your email, well, yeah, we have a webinar page, and you can find both live sessions that you can participate in and recorded sessions. So I've just pasted the link to this page into the chat. All right. So these are the resources that are available. We have another question from Sarah. Can you explain how you added special custom fields that aren't already there? Sure, Sarah, of course, I can do that. So here we have the project called exec event, right? I think it's already completed. Let me select another one, maybe this one called launch new site. All right. So first thing that you need to remember, custom fields can be only added in the table view. So they can be viewed in other views, but added only on the table views. So whatever we will need to whatever information you need to track on a project level or on a task level, you can just add that using the custom field. So you simply start by clicking the plus icon and start typing the name of your field. So whatever information you will need to track. Like, for example, I added these billable hours or just hourly rate. So as you can see, it's the one that I've already created, and also the one that I can create from scratch. So if I create a new field from scratch, I simply choose the type of the field currency. I can apply some additional settings, and yeah, we will be good to go. So that's how fields are added, and once these fields have been added, you can actually start tracking this field. Oh, actually, yeah. So I forgot to add aggregation here. So let me just go back to our report to check if this actually allowed us to. Yeah. So going back to the question asked by Anastasia. So I'm sorry, I just misled you a bit. So I forgot to add aggregation in that custom field. So once I have added it, we can actually get a total. So yeah. I'm sorry about that. Totally forgot that I have not enabled it for the custom field. All right. So Sarah, I hope I have also answered your question. If not, please elaborate what you want me to just again explain. I'll be happy to discuss it with you. We have another question from Sherry. Do you have to apply to each project, or by default the custom fields get applied? Well, that's a very good question, and Sherry, the answer is it depends on the level where you are adding that custom field. For example, we have this February folder in our archive, right? So if I add a custom field on the level of the project, then it will only be applied to this project. If I apply this custom field on the level of the folder, it will be applied to the folder itself and to the projects that are residing inside. So just like with sharing, Wrike has top-down sharing logic, and the same logic can be applied for custom fields. And another great thing that I would like to highlight, that custom fields can actually be shared with all users in the account or only with specific users. The good thing about that is that this functionality gives you an opportunity to share the project itself with everyone. But if the custom fields that are part of this project contain some sensitive data, you can hide that data from the people who are not supposed to see it. So yeah, I hope I have answered your question. All right, so I see there are no more questions. So I hope that's because you understood everything I was talking about. So guys, I would like to thank you so much for attending today's webinar. Some additional thanks to everyone who was asking the questions. You are awesome guys, and as I promised, I will forward all your feedback and the ideas that we have discussed today with you to our R&D team, so you can be sure of that. If you would like to review the material that was discussed during this webinar, so I have two options for you. Firstly, again, you have the handout that you can download, and it contains step-by-step guides on how to just build everything that I was showcasing to you today, and screenshots, so you will not get lost on how it should look like at the end. And of course, the recording of this webinar is going to appear on our webinar page by the end of tomorrow, and the email with the link to it will be sent to everyone who had registered for this session. So thank you again, and have a great rest of your week. Bye guys.